Hi, Natasha. It's a pleasure to meet you. I'm Christopher from the People's Movies. How are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you, Chris?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to talk to you because Euphoria, the final season of the show as well, as people learn. And I got a few questions on the costumes because you came on board with this third season, with there being two seasons before it, and the fashion style between the first two seasons and the third are drastically different. Obviously, some of the characters kind of dress similar, but it's a very different tone to what those first two seasons are, and they're no longer in high school. So I was wondering what your intended goal was when you stepped onto this job and how you wanted to differentiate, you know, the looks from season one and two to season three.
Um, Thanks so much for the question. I think our intended goal was to kind of like fill in the story gap between season one and two and try to express the growth of the characters, and sort of place them in their present state in season three because we have such a large time jump
Yeah.
between seasons two and three. So the goal was to sort of figure out who these characters are now, what's informed who they've become, and dress them for that part as well as we could.
And then also with the series finale, I feel like a lot of people were kind of questioning in regards to Colman Domingo's Ali when he wears the military uniform when he goes after Alamo. And a lot of people weren't too familiar with his military background. So I was wondering what that was like behind the scenes, getting together this costume for Colman Domingo and its like overall significance with that, final outing with him and Alamo.
Sure. I actually talked with Sam Levinson, Coleman, and all of us had a few different versions in our minds, and we tried military fatigues, and then the dress uniform that you saw. And we also just talked about generally the Ali character's background and when he would have served, how he would have served, and how that informed who he became and why he's, got this history of service, including in the program, and that it's sort of like a more official return to service through that lens, that more classic lens. Um, but yeah, we all thought it would be really important for him to kind of get back into that militaristic mental state when going to confront Alamo like that.
I mean, honestly, it is a fantastic scene, and I think having Alamo in his kind of cowboy-esque outfits that he has, and then Ali in his military uniform, I think it was perfect. Even to touch on a bit on Alamo, um what was kind of the inspiration for a lot of his outfits throughout the show, because they all feel a bit similar but they are all different.
When we started like preparing for season three, we did some camera tests with a different actor that was like wildly different than Adewale, and our initial direction was kind of like um there's like a period when Miles Davis did kind of a cowboy, like Japanese cowboy thing in the 80s, and that's sort of where we our minds were with his costumes. And then when they cast Adewale, he and I did such a deep dive into who the character is together and all the things that would inform him, and we get that great backstory with his mother, Mama Brown,
Yeah.
and all of the little he's got his little cowboy sets, and we really wanted him to feel like not only a modern day cowboy, but someone who is, has so much self-respect and maybe a touch of insecurity in there, but like if it's in there, it's really hidden behind this mask that are these costumes. And sometimes they're a little bit more glamorous than other times, but and we in that final scene with Alamo and Alamo has a little brooch that we wanted to feel like would have belonged to his mother, because
Okay.
he is making this kind of statement to Maddy about turning a new leaf, and maybe his nostalgia has shifted a bit. So he's got that little signifier there.
That's a really insightful answer about, the brooch and what it means in that scene as well, especially when he's talking to Maddy. Um, Even talking about not precisely Maddy, but just one of the bigger episodes of Euphoria season 3, which was the wedding. And obviously we had Maddy at the wedding, Jules, Rue. But I wanted to specifically talk about Jules's notorious to, I guess, the fans outfit for that wedding, and obviously Cassie's wedding dress. And what was the process behind, picking out all these outfits for this episode, but specifically with those two characters.
For Jules and Cassie,
Yeah,
well, it all began with Cassie's wedding dress. That was sort of the jumping off point that, you know, as one does in a wedding, the dress and the wedding ceremony come before, the invitations
yeah,
or the guests get, the guest list. So we began with really diving into the psychology of the Cassie character for the wedding, and then all of the demands of wanting it to be this grand thing, and wanting it to have transformation, and wanting um her to be able to do the dance and have this tiny little short skirt, and just like checking all the boxes while making sure it was true to the character, what the character would have wanted and chosen.
mhm,
And after we had Cassie's look set, that's when we started exploring what the other wedding guests would wear. And we wanted, Jules and Maddy to stand out, because we wanted them to stand apart from the other wedding guests, because I think they would want to stand apart.
yeah,
And Jules has this complicated relationship with not only the groom, but the father of the groom, and is in this awkward situation of being Rue's date, which isn't, Rue kind of came out of left field with this invite, and it's, she's going to be noticed anyway, so she may as well look absolutely incredible.
yeah.
Um, and yeah, that was kind of our thinking for Jules.
And even sticking more into Jules and Cassia's characters, I think I could argue that throughout the show that the characters that kind of have, besides, the drug dealers, they're the characters that have kind of the most money. Jules with her, sugar daddy, and Cassie, doing the OnlyFans and trying to make this career being a celebrity. And I wanted to ask more about just their, overall generic costumes throughout the season, with how, Jules connects, with her artistic value and life that she portrays in that season, and Cassie's various outfits from, her initial OnlyFans beginnings to, the one scene where she becomes a giant lady, and then also overall just sorry, I'm forgetting the final thing with Cassie, but also when she's trying to become a,
She's kind of like a
yeah,
Rosie the Riveter in the
yeah,
final scene.
yeah,
Well, I think Cassie, you see like such a broad on-screen transformation because it she's kind of like stuck in this suburban world, like, but everything she does is rather performative, and she's kind of performing this piece as like a perfect little housewife, but secretly doing all of these um you know videos, and
Mm,
it hasn't necessarily crossed over to OnlyFans at that point, but she's desperately seeking attention and the male gaze, and be it from her husband or outside sources. And I think the quest for that gaze differs depending on who it is. So when it's with Nate, she's like selling him on this certain dream. And when she's doing OnlyFans or whatnot, she's selling a more general, like, dream that's less personal.
yeah.
And then, we of course have her at the wedding. Um, we have her kind of coming out into the party scene with Maddy and the 50-foot woman of it all. And that we really did want to reference those, Attack of the 50-foot woman. And Sam had it scripted that it was Leopard. And so I designed something with the Victoria's Secret design team that we could have many multiples of to do all the stunts we needed with that. And then I think at the end, this kind of like, yes, we can outfit that she's wearing is like, again, kind of like her selling the dream. She's there pitching this, OnlyFans house to Lexi, and with her plans of like, this is where the girls will live, and we want to like take it further and have a narrative. And it's this sort of like, not full, it almost like comes full circle back to that housewife era dream, but through
Mm.
like a different perspective of
And then
like
I also wanted to ask. Oh, sorry,
independence.
sorry. It's
No,
I
no,
think it's
independence and
sorry
like
about that.
women supporting women in community. No, you're good. You're good.
Yeah,
That's
no, sorry about that. And then I wanted to ask about, Rue in one of Zendaya's final scenes as Rue. We see her wearing, her father's hoodie jacket, and obviously we know the significance of that to her from the previous seasons of the show. And I was wondering if it was always intended from the beginning with, you and Sam to in that, I guess in her death scene for her to be wearing that.
yes. Yeah, we wanted to have a full closure on this show with that hoodie. And that was something that not only did Sam and I discuss, but I discussed it with the production designer and the art director. And we made sure the couch was a certain color because we knew what color the hoodie would be.
Yeah.
And so Ollie's apartment, like, design, like, we knew that going in from the jump that that was the hoodie and that needed to be the space for it.
And then one last question for you, a more simpler question than all these other questions. What was your personal favorite costume to work on in the show?
Oh my gosh, there were so many. I can't decide. There were a few incredible costumes that we designed that didn't even make it for Cassie, that
Mm.
whole scene got cut. But I mean, there are too many to say, but I'm very thrilled with the way um Maddie's wedding guest dress turned out. And I'm thrilled it got so much screen time.
Is there anything you can say about the Cassie scene that got cut that you liked?
I mean, that was like a storyline that, ended up not driving the plot forward and was just hilarious much, and they have to end up cutting things that don't push the plot forward, and I support our editorial team. I think they do a phenomenal job, and I think they made the right choice.
Honestly, thank you so
But it
much
was
for
a
your
good
time, Natasha.
costume.
Oh,
Oh my
sorry.
gosh, thank you, Chris.
I
It
think
was a pleasure.
I think it's the connection for this. I don't know if it's on my side, but it just kept on. I could never tell whether you were done or not with the questions. So I apologize for cutting you at any point when I did. But like I appreciate your time, for answering my questions and for giving so much insight into the meanings of these costumes and all the, creative work that went into it with, you, Sam Levinson, the art department and everyone. So it's a pleasure speaking to you and I can't wait to see what you have in the future.
The pleasure was mine. Have a beautiful rest of your day.